We have gone into a different what? We are still freaking going. If you've never seen a Hyper-Canon in Satisfactory before, this is going to be quite an interesting video. But first, let's start with the basics. Hyper-Canons are made using HYPERTUBEs, which is unlocked in tier 4 of the hub. Best of all, these things are rather cheap. You only really need copper sheets and steel pipes. Luckily, the items for crafting this thing are remarkably simple. All you need is HYPERTUBEs, the HYPERTUBE entrance, and the HYPERTUBE support, of course with the appropriate power resources as well. Bear in mind that each of these HYPERTUBE entrances cost you 10 power, and we are going to be needing quite a few of these, so make sure you have got the appropriate power required. I will be making this thing personally on this blueprint, since again, we're not just trying to make a regular Hyper-Canon, we're trying to go for the biggest that we can physically make. So to start off, make sure you've selected your HYPERTUBE, and this automatically comes equipped with a HYPERTUBE stand. You want to be aiming the actual HYPERTUBE itself in the direction that you want to try and go in. So if we want to go over here, we aim the tube in this direction, and then we can place it down wherever we want, except we can't really do that for this build, because we need to try and make sure that these things are as close together as you can physically make it. As you can see, they are currently touching. That's what we need. So now we just have to do that all over again until we get to the very end of this blueprint. Now this will take you a couple of minutes to do, but trust me, it will be worth it. And you'll actually be saving a lot of time if you do make this on the blueprint. So by now, this is what you should have. It's quite simple to do, just takes a little bit of time. The next step, a lot of people seem to mess up on. All you have to do is delete every second HYPERTUBE support, as you can see I'm doing right now. This should be what you're left with, and it does look very nice, but unfortunately we have to destroy it just a little bit more. So what you need to do is, as you can see, we've got two HYPERTUBEs themselves. What we want to do is remove the HYPERTUBE that's to the left of the two. So for example, remove that one, remove this one, and remove this one. We don't remove the one on the right, we remove the one on the left. I'm not quite sure of the reasoning behind this, but if you don't do this, it just won't work. Just like that, it is now all gone. But of course, if you try and go through the Hyper-Canon right now, it won't work, because there's no entrance. And essentially, this is what might drain your power. But you have to place down a bunch of these entrances on top of all the supports. You cannot miss a single one, and preferably have them all facing the right direction as well, because otherwise it won't work. But as you can see, it does that automatically. Oh, I can't place it there, really? Now we've finally got all of our HYPERTUBE entrances on top of our supports. Now we just need a little bit of power. Now, I actually do recommend watching this tutorial on the screen that I made at the end of this video, because I explained some really nice ways to actually hide your power, because as you're about to see, power pools make this thing look absolutely ridiculous. Alas, the main part of this build is actually complete. Now make sure to save the name of the blueprint as something that you can easily remember. And of course, feel free to accompany that name with an actual picture of an HYPERTUBE, which makes things a bit easier to spot. So congratulations, that's part 1 finished. Now the second part is trying to find out where we're going to place this, and where's it gonna go? We're going to be going in a straight line here, so if I want to try and go in this direction, there's obviously no point in me trying to angle it going over here. So although this sounds like a very easy step, the last thing you want to do is set up this thing, then realize you've got it facing in the wrong direction, because that's just gonna suck for everyone involved, which is probably just you. So after we built out this foundation, all we have to do now is actually place down our blueprints, which luckily is something I can easily remember. So when you place down this thing, remember which direction you're trying to go, because again, if you end up going in the wrong direction, this thing won't really work. And we know because of the power lines that we are trying to go in this direction. This thing's starting to come along, but of course it won't work until you've actually hooked it up to a power source. How did I miss that? That's actually incredible. And after you've created the most hideous power line going straight through your base, your cannon is now officially powered on. But when we go through here, you realize we didn't really get much height. Well, that's when our next step comes in handy. All you have to do is get the HYPERTUBE, come out by a few blocks, go up by a 1 or 2 high, depending on what you like. I like this sort of angle myself. I don't want to go too high because then you don't get as much distance covered. So you want to try and build something a little bit like this, And in theory, everything should now work. And do not place a Hypertube entrance up here. Just leave it like that. And now for the test. Is it going to work? Yes. Yes, it is. And there we go. That is how you make it. I haven't got a parachute. Am I going to die from this? Oh, I survived. 1/2 a heart. No freaking way. And that's how you make a Hypertube cannon in Satisfactory. And I mean, yeah, that's good and all, but I think we can take this up a notch. Let's try and create the longest Hypertube cannon in Satisfactory. And for that, I've opened up our creative world. There is 2 reasons as to why that is. First of all, I would really like to create a massive Hypertube that goes from one side of the map all the way to the other side. And the second idea is I want to try and see how many of these Hypertubes I can actually fit into a blueprint, and then use that blueprint as like a pocket cannon, if that makes sense. So, I suppose there's only one place to begin, and that is right here. And just before we make it any bigger, I want to make sure that this does work. Okay, great. So, ooh, we actually got some really good distance there. So this does work. You don't have to add like anything in between the 2 blueprints. The flow perfectly from one to another. So that's actually really good for us, and of course for you if you're making this at home as well. As you might have seen, we have now created our extremely long Hypertube, and I will be very surprised if this doesn't crash the game. It keeps going, but I'll be very surprised if this doesn't generally crash my game. So without further ado, I say it's time we test the world's longest Hypertube cannon in Satisfactory. Oh, it's working. Oh, I think we're glitching. What is going on? Oh my actual days. Okay, we're getting close towards the end. I can see the end. I think, oh no, we're glitching back. Are we getting close to it? Oh. You're joking. No. We've gone out the map. We have gone into a different what? I've never done this before. This is actually sick. Wait, can I build stuff? Invalid aim location. I wonder why. Okay, it's been about 1 minute now, and we are still going forwards. We're not yet going down. We are still going forwards. Time to get some thumbnails. Oh, we're falling. We're falling. Okay, we are finally falling. There's our world right there. You can see the world right back over there, but as you can see, we're still quite far away from it. Oh, and there goes our body. So that clearly works, which is great, but I've got another idea. How many Hypertube cannons can you actually fit into one blueprint? And will this boost you as far? Let's find out now. And to make this blueprint is actually incredibly simple. All you have to do is get, of course, the actual blueprint you are using, which for us right now is new blueprint 1. We are then going to come around here, rotate it so it fits roughly about here. I think is the correct location. And all we have to do is get rid of this very last Hypertube entrance here in the end, grab our main Hypertube, circle it round to there, and there you go. But of course you can make this look a little bit neater, just like that, which is great. So this obviously does end up working. So first of all, we are going to see if our regular Hypertube cannon boosts us a far distance. We're then going to compare it to this, which is 1 foundation width of a blueprint. And then we're going to see what it looks like as like a full-on blueprint. So let's test out the starter one. This should boost us a fairly good distance. Okay, and this is where we got to in the end, which is honestly a decent distance. Okay, so next up, I would love to test out this second Hypertube, because if this doesn't work, essentially our plan has failed. So let's see. Oh, okay, that's a lot further. Oh my gosh. Okay, that will very easily boost us over here, which is great. And in one simple step, we can go from this to this, which, I mean, how much power is this going to consume? I almost don't want to know. But it is fairly simple. Again, you go in through there, you go all the way around here, you go up, repeat the process, and you come out of here. But I wanted to make things even more interesting. I suppose you'll see it in just a second. And just before we go in this thing, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. This video took way too long to make for what it really is. But without further ado, I think it's time to go inside of the ultimate Hypertube cannon in Satisfactory 1.0. Let's do this. Okay, good start on floor 1. Look at all the momentum after just 1 floor. Holy crap. Okay, 3rd floor now. I think we've started the 4th floor. And here we go. Oh, no. Oh, yes. And the thing about this one is that we are not going to go straight. We're going to go up. Our character's now got white hands. We went so fast out of that Hyper-Tube cannon. Oh my gosh. We are still freaking going. And that is where we are gonna leave it for today. That is how you make a Hyper-Tube in Satisfactory. Of course, a massive thank you to Lo, Chaos Rising, Jan Matejko, and Meow Meow for all becoming members on the channel. If you too would like to become a member, you get access to exclusive badges, emotes, rewards, channel benefits, and a lot more. Click the membership link in the description below to join for £2.99 per month. It is the best way to support my channel, but it is not necessary. It is the best way to support my work here on the channel. And that will just about do it for today's video, so click there or here to see more of my content, and subscribe if Satisfactory is the game for you. Have an amazing rest of your day, and remember, Godspeed.